I'm Allison Langer.
I'm Andrea Askowitz, and this is Writing Class Radio. You'll hear true personal stories and learn how to write your own stories. Together, we produce this podcast, which is equal parts heart and art. By heart, we mean the truth in a story. By art, we mean the craft of writing. No matter what's going on in our lives, writing class is where we tell the truth. It's where we work out our shit. There's no place in the world like writing class, and we want to bring you in. Today, we bring you the 5th story in a 7-part series called Our Abortion Stories to support Yes on 4, which is an amendment that will bring abortion rights back to Florida. A few weeks ago, we did a live show in Miami, Florida, featuring 7 heartbreaking but also heartwarming and triumphant stories covering all aspects of abortion and healthcare. We're bringing you one a week until the election, November 5th, 2024. If you're listening after November 5th, these stories are still amazing and informative, both in content and craft. If you're just tuning in, like if this is your first time listening to this podcast, please listen to episode 190 to learn how our live show, Our Abortion Stories, came to be and why we feel stories can change hearts and laws.
Today's story is by Dr. Cecilia Grande, who is an OB-GYN here in Miami, Florida. And what you're going to get is a doctor's perspective on how this abortion ban is affecting the medical doctors here in Miami and all of Florida who are trying to fulfill their Hippocratic oath. Back with Dr. Grande's story after the break. We're back. I'm Allison Langer, and you're listening to Writing Class Radio. Here's Dr. Cecilia Grande reading her story, A Physician's Duty.
Good evening. Forgive me, I have a little cold. And I want to thank all these very brave women that are telling their stories today. I grew up in Puerto Rico. When I was 5 and someone asked me what I wanted to be, I said physician. I didn't say doctor. I said it in proper Spanish, médico, physician. That was me at 5. I've been a physician now for 30 years. I practice gynecology here in Miami, and I love it. I want to start by saying pregnancy is not a benign state. Pregnancy is not a disease either, but a lot can go wrong, and the tragedy of the current 6-week abortion ban is that this law prevents doctors like me from doing our jobs. The law delays common sense standard care. Now, doctors have to jump through hoops while women can get sick and even die. A few years ago, before the 6-week ban, I had a patient who was 10 weeks pregnant when she had an incomplete spontaneous abortion, which in lay terms is a miscarriage. She bled so much we had to transfuse her. Her cervix was open, which means she was open to infection and more bleeding. There was no question she would have to go to the operating room for evacuation of the uterus in order to stop the bleeding. By evacuation of the uterus, I mean an abortion. This abortion was the standard of care that saved her life. If my patient came today, her care would be delayed because she still had an embryo inside of her. Today, she would not be transferred immediately to the operating room. First, I would have to document that there was a rupture. Then, because there's cardiac activity, I would have to justify the need to intervene and evacuate her uterus. These are unnecessary delays. This is medical malpractice. Delayed care, in this case, could lead to more bleeding and infection. At best, that causes infertility. At worst, death. Since Florida's ban went into law 2 years ago, I've seen this happen way too many times. In May of this year, with the 6-week ban, the Agency of Healthcare Administration released guidelines allowing for immediate care, by that I mean abortion, for 3 exceptions. Ruptured membranes, which means your water breaks, ectopic pregnancies, which means a pregnancy is not in the uterus, and molar pregnancies, which means the patient has an abnormal, aggressive placenta. These guidelines seem humane, but they're grossly inefficient. There are many, many more exceptions that we need. Each clinical scenario is unique and cannot be anticipated. Another exception allows abortion when the mother's life is in danger. This sounds humane, but is very, very gray. Doctors are now forced to wonder, when is my patient's life in danger enough for me to do something about it? The law also gives an exception, as we heard before, for victims of rape and incest. This exception might be the most deceptive. Almost anyone would agree that a woman who has been raped should not have to carry the rapist's child. But the exception, as we heard, requires a court order. Let me explain. Most women don't report rape or come forward fast enough. They go home, they get under their covers because they have been violated. So requiring that these women go through the court system is simply cruel. These guidelines on the surface appear to be reasonable, even kind. But all exceptions, pardon my French, are bullshit. Deborah Dorbert from Lakeland, Florida, could not be here today because of life and work. Deborah was not my patient, but I know her doctor explained to her that her baby would not live long enough after birth. Deborah was 23 weeks pregnant when she found out her fetus had Potter syndrome, which means the fetus did not and would not develop kidneys. Deborah and her husband wanted an abortion. They wanted to end their suffering. But because this happened last year here in Florida, Deborah needed permission from the hospital where she went for care. The law states that an abortion can be granted if two physicians certify in writing that the fetus has a fatal abnormality. Let me tell you, in this climate, doctors are afraid. We face penalties of $5,000 and 5 years in prison if we're challenged. Deborah was forced to carry her fetus to term. She went through 12 hours of labor and delivered her baby. 94 minutes later, her baby died in her arms. Recently, I attended an OB-GYN conference in Orlando. One of my colleagues turned to me and said, "These are our choices. We can either delay care and wait for patients to get deathly sick. We can force women to go to term, or we can do what we know is right, but face the danger of prosecution." I grew up Catholic, and I know plenty of people who say abortion is murder. Now, this may sound counterintuitive, but safe, legal abortions save lives. Before Roe, the rate of maternal death from illegal abortion was 10%. After Roe, and for the past 51 years, the rate of death from legal abortion is 0. Medically necessary abortions save lives. There are other consequences from this current abortion ban. We've already seen a 25% reduction in applicants for OB-GYN residencies in Florida. And good doctors are leaving the state who don't want to practice here under these oppressive laws. And guess who suffers? Every patient who needs gynecological care. That is every woman in the state. In 1994, I graduated from medical school. During the ceremony, while I stood in my toga, I took the Hippocratic Oath, which basically is to respect basic bioethical principles, which are, number 1, respect bodily autonomy. Number 2, non-maleficence, which means we don't create harm. Number 3, beneficence, which means we do whatever we can to benefit the patient. And number 4, justice, which means we treat everybody equally. I'm standing here today because the current law violates every principle of bioethics. I'm Catholic, but I'm a physician, and these 4 pillars of care are my duty. Thank you for coming tonight.
I love that she says, "Thank you for coming tonight." I just loved her so much. I mean, we had the benefit of seeing all these people in person, which doesn't always happen on our podcast, right? She just has such a calm presence.
I think that this doctor is so strong and so fierce, and she is the voice of authority. Everything about the way she speaks, the way she stands, the way she presents. I am so impressed with her, and I'm so grateful that she is speaking out against the current abortion laws in Florida.
Yeah.
I love her story. I think that what kind of got lost on stage, though I hear it and I want to make sure that the listener of our podcast hears it, is that there really is a story here. Like, here is the story of a woman who, as a little girl, even at 5 years old, had this seriousness about her. She didn't just want to be a doctor. She wanted to be a physician. I mean, there is like an elevated sense for her from her beginning memories about what it meant to be a doctor. And I feel like she's carried that for 30 years. And I feel like that's so cool. It came up again when she was telling us what it was like for her to take that oath. So she's there in her toga. You know, I got this sense that she's like, da, na, 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 na. Like, she is taking it so seriously.
Yes, 100%. And I love the way she says toga.
Toga. Exactly.
Yeah.
She's in her toga and she's like, I'm stepping into this field and I'm going to do right by it. And now
she can't protect her patients.
Right. She cannot protect her patients. And then she lays it out so clearly. I want everyone in the world to hear the story.
Yeah, because if she does, then she could be fined $5,000 and serve 5 years in prison if she's challenged. I mean, I get that there needs to be oversight. There is oversight. These doctors are not going off rogue, trying to use their own discretion. They are doing what is right for their patient. It doesn't matter what they think or what they believe. They are trying to save their patients. She's Catholic. It's not like she's like going rogue or something. She just wants to save her patient. The patient is in danger. She wants to be able to save her patient without worrying about going to prison.
She laid out the exceptions to the abortion law in a way that I thought was so, like, my mind just, it blew my mind. So there are 3 exceptions for fetus, like if the fetus is in danger. And she says there are so many more exceptions that we need. And then she talks about the mother's life, if the mother's life is in danger. And everybody always says, like, well, if the mother's life is in danger, if there's something wrong with the fetus, but like, how do you know when the mother's life is in danger enough? And that's what she told us. You can't legislate the mother's life, that idea. And then the rape exception, that one is just infuriating to me. And I love this doctor for just like, all right, let me explain. When a woman is raped, she is not going to get a court order for the most part, most of the time.
No, because they don't even want to report. We went over that in episode 191 in this series. And it's just, you know, here's a woman that was helping her students. She was an RA in a dorm and she was helping them report. And then when it happened to her, she couldn't even report. So
right.
It's gray. It's gray.
It's not a fair exception. It's a cruel exception. It's meaningless. And this doctor says, excuse my French, these exceptions are bullshit. And they are.
Yeah.
Doctors' hands should not be tied. The end, period. No mas.
And just a couple more things about the law before we get to some of the writing. The fact that women can't get standard care, like all women, forget whether you're having an abortion or not, you know, or problems with a pregnancy. I mean, if you're trying to get an appointment with a doctor, you can't get in because they're leaving the state.
Right. Right. Doctors are leaving the state and doctors don't want to train here.
Yeah.
What about this beautiful line? Sorry, I wanted to just mention the line about some say, she's Catholic and she says, some say abortion is murder. And this might sound counterintuitive, but abortions save lives. That's freaking true.
Can we just go over really quickly what this Yes on 4 amendment does state? Because I just think some people think, oh, we're just going to be killing babies at 9 months. That's absolutely false.
Do you have the language?
I do.
Yeah, say it. Read it.
The amendment says, no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. There's a second part, but because the amendment can only address one thing at a time, voting yes on 4 does not change parental consent. So I know people have said, but that's not what we're arguing here. We're just talking about the viability situation and the 6-week ban that we want to go back to viability, just like in Roe v. Wade.
Thank you, Dr. Cecilia Grande, for sharing your story. And thank you for listening. Dr. Cecilia Grande is an OB-GYN and has been practicing in Miami for 30 years.
Writing Class Radio is hosted by me, Allison Langer.
And me, Andrea Askowitz.
Audio production by Matt Kundle, Evan Serminski, and Aiden Glassy at the Sound Off Media Company. Theme music is by Kenny Corrade. There's more writing class on our website, including stories we study, editing resources, video classes, writing retreats, and live online classes. If you want to write with us every week, or if you're a business owner, community activist, group that needs healing, entrepreneur, and you want to help your team write better, check out all the classes we offer on our website, writingclassradio.com. Join the community that comes together for instruction, an excuse to write, and the support from other writers. To learn more, go to our website or patreon.com/writingclassradio. A full list of our sponsors and a link to donate to Yes on 4 can be found in our show notes. A new episode in this series will drop every Wednesday until the election.
There's no better way to understand ourselves and each other than by writing and sharing our story. Everyone has a story. What's yours?
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.